to have her. Her name is Professor Sandra Buel. She is currently a lot of things. If you read in the packet, you can get a more detailed bio, but she's currently the clinical professor of law and the faculty director of the Diane Halle Center for Family Justice at the ASU Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law. She's a domestic violence survivor herself, a voice for survivors still. She's been a prosecutor in Massachusetts, and a ton of other things I'm sure she would love to talk about and share her story. Part of the reason why we brought her in is because she is an activist and I think a really good role model for both men and women college students who are interested in social issues, and also got to talk about her center that she's running now. And just a little tidbit, in 1992 she won an Academy Award for the documentary Defender of Our Lives. So please welcome Professor Sandra Buel.
Absolutely delighted, honored to be here. Everybody in the first 3 rows gets safety plans, and then if we have extras, the rest can have them, because as a teacher I have to encourage you to be engaged and upfront and part of what's going on. I know it's always tempting to sit in the back, always, but one of the things I promise my law students is I will call on everybody in the back first, and I will reserve the hardest questions for those in the back. In part because we have to learn how to speak up. We just have to, as women, as men, as people who want to be voices for change. And so I love numbering things. What I learned in being an advocate is that whether I was training police or trying to argue with a court or a jury to do something I wanted them to do, give custody to my client, put someone in jail who I thought was very dangerous, keep someone out of jail who I thought deserved another chance. If I could say, Your Honor, or ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there are 5 reasons why I found they were much more likely to stay with me. And if I went on too long on reason 3, then the judge would say, Ms. Buel, are we ever going to get to number 4? Whereas otherwise, if I'm just sort of rambling on, they would just stop me. So numbering your arguments is one suggestion I have, and I'm going to try to model it for you. So as part of talking about becoming an advocate, becoming a change maker in your community, in your world, which many, many of you already are, I know, I want to offer you 5 suggestions. The first is just this notion of necessitamos soñar. We must dream. Don't ever, ever, ever let anyone tell you, oh, that can't be done, or that. I just had this discussion with the dean of the law school. I'm sure I'm not supposed to say this with the camera running, but anyway, because he said these people are always complaining that you don't like to be told no, that you can never accept no. Oh, you're absolutely correct. Of course, how would I be here now if I had accepted no? I would maybe still be married to my violent ex-husband, my high school sweetheart. I would maybe still be working in a shoe factory or waitressing or any of the steps along the way that got me where I am. We have to learn how to, of course, you don't take on every battle, but to do that analysis and decide, absolutely I'm not accepting no. Absolutely this is too important. I'm going to figure out a way. And that this is my dream. I get to make sure it happens. I want to make sure that I figure out how to do this. When I had finally, here I was, I'd gone 7 years of trying to figure out how to just finish high school. Went to 8 different high schools, you know, just this, I was adjudicated a little bit, but that's a different talk. You know, and I finally got into college, and I was so excited. I'd gone 1 year of community college, and then I was accepted at Columbia. I was living in New York, and so this was just fabulous, and they're going to give me this big scholarship. And my father says to me, now I'm the first in my family to finish high school and go to college. He says, well, don't worry if you flunk out. You can always go to beautician school. And I cannot tell you how much that just hurt my heart. My father thinks I'm going to flunk out, right? But you just have to move past that, right? Then my brothers, I have 2 brothers, did time for drug dealing. One of them ended up, after coming out of prison, getting murdered around his involvement with gangs and all of that. And right after he got out, everybody said, well, you have to let him come and live with you. And you know, you're a good sister, you let him come and live with you. There's no place else he can go. No, he can't come and live with me, because he's still doing drugs. He's back in that whole world. I can't let him take me down with him. I'm also a single parent, and I'm not going to have that around my child. Everybody's all upset with me. What kind of sister are you? Then my sister moves in with me and decides to be on the couch half the day. And, you know, why get a job if I'm working too, right? This is, I guess, her. So I have to kick her out. You are so mean. You don't even let your sister stay with you. That's right. As Susan Taylor, the editor of Essence magazine, says, you decide who gets a front row seat in your life. You break up with the boyfriend, the girlfriend, the partner who picks a fight the night before every exam. Oh yeah, I've had one of those too. Long after I thought I was done with all this abuse, I thought if they don't hit me, then there's no abuse, right? And we have to keep learning. What is the standard? What do we deserve? And I thought, I'm just so lucky that he wants to be with me and he doesn't hit me. And it took one of my good friends to say, sure seems like he's picking a fight the night before every exam, because I was in night school by then. Sometimes we don't see what's right in front of us. And most of us don't have that perspective until we're out of a relationship. It can be a workplace where you're being treated outrageously. It can be a family member, an intimate partner, a teacher, any of those. And just learning how to be very clear what those limits are. Just loud and clear. You may not talk to me in that tone of voice. The first job I ever got right after law school, extremely abusive boss. And she just had a lot of issues. She was very frustrated. The only good thing was she was like this to everybody, so I didn't have to take it personally. All of the new staff she treated outrageously. But everybody made excuses. Well, she's under a lot of stress. No, the great thing about doing this work is we get to just have at least a minimum standard. Nobody gets to talk to me that way. You don't get to yell at me in the elevator about something you think I did wrong in trial. Absolutely, I want to know. But there's a way to talk to me. And making sure that everybody that we're involved with knows what that standard is. And practicing, what is that script that you are going to say so that it doesn't come out as you're so angry and you're jumbling your words. And this is also numbering. There are 3 reasons why you can't talk to me in that tone of voice. There are 4 reasons why I'm not going to stay in this job. And I left that job after 8 months. And everybody kept saying, well, you can't do that. They gave you a job right out of law school. You owe them loyalty. Really? Well, this is what I love about human rights doctrine. Human rights doctrine is premised on this notion of dignity-based rights, that we are all entitled to be treated with dignity. We just get that by being born. What a fabulous idea. I love saying that. I've been a foster parent for many, many years, and I love talking to little kids about this too. And little kids get this idea about dignity. And I love teaching. I had a little, actually the little girl of one of my foster daughters I had with me at 6, and I'm teaching her how to talk about dignity-based rights and what the First Amendment says. And my mother says, oh, her teacher just thinks she's the most brilliant little thing in the world. And, one day she was staying with me, and she didn't want to eat, she wanted cookies for dinner. I said, no, you can't have cookies for dinner. You gotta eat dinner first. She puts her little hands on her hips and she says, I'm no killer, but you can push me. And I thought, you see the power? This, it turns out, I had to call one of my other foster sons who was about to come over. I said, what does this mean? Oh, that's the words to a hip hop song. So her mom must have been listening to this, but she knew how to apply it. Right? She wasn't getting what she wanted, and she wants to say something that she thinks is going to change my mind. Of course, I did completely the wrong thing, and I was laughing so hard I couldn't stop, which is not the right response. But then she laughed, too. But we realize even how young we give these messages about what's okay and how you set limits. And you know, her mother and I are determined that she's not going to be trampled on, and nobody's going to take advantage of her. But you want to also temper that just a little bit. So I teach criminal law and also domestic violence and the law. And in both of these classes, I start out every class by saying, what does a family of 3 people get on welfare in the great state of Arizona? And the whole class together says, $347. And I say, and how do you feel about that? It's not enough. Oh yes, you get $50, $60 a month in food stamps, but that's 44 cents a meal. So don't even think about going out. So people say, why don't abuse victims leave? Why did you stay so long with your ex-husband? What was wrong with you, right? What are the safety nets? What are the options? Welfare is our primary safety net because most of us don't have the job skills. So we leave, but very often welfare doesn't process our applications fast enough, and we sued in Massachusetts the Department of Welfare because they were deliberately holding back the applications of battered women. And they said, well, that's because they go back so fast. Why process it? Well, how to create a self-fulfilling prophecy? If you don't process it and I can't get any help, then of course I'm going to have to go back to my abuser because I can't feed my kids. The numbers of food banks that will only let you go once a month because they have too many people coming. The scariest moments for me were not having a gun to my head. It was the third night in a row of feeding the kids macaroni and watered down ketchup and realizing we're out of macaroni. And I knew in that moment, I'm willing to commit crimes to feed my children. In the richest country in the world, what do you want me to do? I'm already working 2 jobs, can't feed them. I apply for emergency food stamps. Oh, they get 3 days to decide if I'm eligible. What am I supposed to feed them in 3 days? Now, fortunately, because of my brother stealing drugs, I knew that wasn't the road I wanted to go down and end up in prison. My mother worked 2 jobs, first as a telephone operator and then cleaning houses. And I thought, well, I can clean houses. So I worked under the table cleaning houses. So nobody has to do a citizen's arrest. I know it was welfare fraud, but it's been too many years, so you don't have to worry. And I'm not proud of that, but I share that with you to understand that even as we speak, there are so many people in Phoenix who are hungry, who have no food, that every single day at our Halle Center, 2120 North Central, or the floor below the Family Advocacy Center, every single day somebody comes in that we need to take over to St. Mary's Food Bank and help them get food. And very often they need a ride home because they get at least 2 boxes, depending on how many kids they have. So we're bringing them in and helping them. And you see in their cupboards, in their refrigerators, there's nothing. There might be a few crackers, there might be a mustard in the refrigerator or something, but many of us are trying to figure out how to not eat too much. You know, if you look at my refrigerator, because we didn't have enough growing up, I'm obsessed with having, my neighbors tease me, any natural disaster, we're coming to your house, because I have more canned goods, I have enough food. My 84-year-old mother lives with me, and she laughs because growing up, there was always just barely enough. We most of the time didn't go hungry, but there was just barely enough, and so she doesn't quite get my obsession. That's my security blanket. I need to just know there's food. Whatever happens, I don't know, a dust storm when I can't get 3 blocks to Safeway. I don't know what my thinking is, but I need that. So I figure if that's the least of my obsessions, that's not too bad, right? At least I'm not. This is my obsession with Native American jewelry. People say, I can't believe you got another necklace. Look, I don't drink, smoke, or gamble, all right? I gotta have some vice. So I guess ice cream, dark chocolate, and having a full cupboard. Those are my vices. The second question I ask every morning, what is the National Domestic Violence Hotline? And the entire class all together say 1-800-799-SAFE. And you can see it on the front of this. And this is from the Maricopa Association of Governments. I love this one because it's Spanish on one side, English on the other. We should be blanketing this community. I'm very proud to tell you the 14 years that I was at University of Texas right before coming here. Within my first year there, we got plastic brochure holders in every single bathroom, male and female, with safety plans. And what happened? Dramatic increase in students, faculty, staff, employees, visitors coming forward. And when they would come to our clinic and we say, how did you find out about us? I found this in the bathroom. Or a student gave it to my daughter's friend's cousin who works with me, and I got it through there. Why are we not blanketing our community with this information? Where are the posters? I don't understand. Do we think everybody knows where to go to get help? In at least one of the workshops this morning, we talked about this, and students had stories. I know somebody, she's getting threatened, and they don't know where to turn. How is this possible with all the social media, with everything else out there? But sometimes it's overwhelming, and people don't know which is a good one. Well, at least the National Domestic Violence Hotline, you can call for sexual assault, child abuse, domestic violence, stalking, always 24/7 English and Spanish-speaking advocates, and they're connected to the AT&T language line, so they can translate in 143 different languages within minutes. It's so amazing to see. We've had survivors come in, and we can't figure out what language they're talking, but they talk into the phone, and the computer can do it. And then you see their face light up when they've connected them with the advocate speaking that language, and then we can do the safety plan and figure out how we move forward. So lots of good information. Do not assume we know all of this. This was put together with survivors in focus groups asking what's the immediate information you need. And that doesn't mean it's everything for every survivor. It's just the very beginning of what we wanted to put together. But we're certainly open to what else do people need to know? How can we get this information out there? I want this plastered in the community. Every beauty parlor, barbershop, library, post office, school, certainly every public building, and every facility that ASU has. Every dorm, every social networking site, every YouTube video show, a little flyer at the beginning, the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And imagine if everybody just knew where to turn. People say, oh, but then the offenders are going to get the number. Good. I want them to know. We're all here. It's like we were in court, and And I'm standing on one side of the survivor, and then a female law student and the female victim and the offender happened to be male, turned to the judge and he said, "Your Honor, look at this army of women trying to put me in jail." I thought, yes, he sees 3 strong women and he thinks there's an army trying to put him in jail. But so then when the judge said, "It just looks like 3 people," he says, "No, she has everybody in all of ASU ready to come to her when she calls." And I thought, yes, I want him to think I got 57,000 students ready. I do. So one of the other things I want to talk about for a second, put them, is Court Watch, and I brought these because this came up in one of our morning sessions. People had some stories about lousy practices in court. So this is a partnership with Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Phoenix School of Law, and our law school, but we would love to have undergraduates, graduates, anyone else, retired people, anyone who's in the community. You see what they did in Tulsa is RSVP, retired volunteers, do their Court Watch program, but I've always done it through the university that I teach at just because I have access to students. So students can't pass my domestic violence class without doing 4 Court Watches, because I don't think anybody should get through school without sitting in court and seeing the difference between laws on the books and what happens when you're there. So it has a tells you where all the different courts are that hear orders of protection and domestic violence cases, gives you some very basic instructions, and then the Court Watch form that we developed. So nothing is subjective on this, it just follows state law. Is the judge doing what they are supposed to be doing? And the wonderful thing that we see is this is one of our most effective means of changing bad judges' behavior. That we've had several instances with outrageous, just outrageous judicial practices, not following the law. And in a number of the courtrooms now in Maricopa County, they have tapes running, they tape the hearings. So then when I bring this to the chief administrative judges, they don't just have to believe us. That's why it's so important to don't turn this in without the judge's name. It's useless without the judge's name. That way we can trace back, get the case number, they can watch the video. And these chief judges have told me, we didn't believe you when you said what had happened in that hearing. We just thought, no way, there's no judge in Arizona that would do that. Just such flagrant disregard for the law, so rude to the victim. But then they watch the tape, and they see it. 2 cases already we got the judges moved. These are taxpayer public servants, and our lives are on the line. And they're playing some little power trick about they don't think they should enforce the law. They don't get that choice. They don't get that choice. Not with us on the watch, but we need you to help us. So we have several very problematic judges. One in particular that we want to start doing Court Watch on in the family court, and when the tape isn't running, I'll tell you his name. But the 2 that we've had to remove already are women judges. So a lot of people think, oh, it's so wonderful to have women judges. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes they're the worst. I think they don't want to be viewed as too sympathetic. And so they go too far in the other extreme and are almost intentionally rude. And rude would be bad enough, but completely ignoring the law, refusing to enforce someone's rights. The law says once you make a finding of family violence, or another judge has, you cannot award custody to that person. Well, I'm finding it anyway. That's what this judge says. But he's saying it with the camera running. I just love it. Just love it. Give me that tape. And we've gotten the Arizona Republic to come, and so they're starting to look at this. There has to be some accountability. Tax-paid public servants. I view myself as a tax-paid public servant. I'm a professor here at Arizona State University. You ought to be able to ask me what I'm doing and why. When I was a prosecutor, we started Court Watch. And it wasn't always comfortable to have people come up and ask me questions. Why did you give one guy jail and the other guy got just a suspended sentence? I ought to be able to explain to you, right? The same thing for judges. We ought to be accountable. And I'm so excited about this idea of transparency because so often it was missing in my own experiences. The first time I went to get an order of protection in front of a packed courtroom, the judge says, well, when was the last time you had sex with your husband? That's not in any statute. It wouldn't have mattered if I had had sex with him 2 minutes before. The standard is, have I been abused under the legal definition of abuse, which is physical assault or threat of physical assault that would cause serious bodily harm, or sexual assault. If any of those 3 have occurred, I'm supposed to get an order of protection. Doesn't matter. And I remember just wanting to die. Now, thank goodness it had been 2 years, so I could at least say that. But she looked a little skeptical. Why? I don't know. What if she just looks at me and decides I'm lying? This is just mind-boggling. How much power sometimes judges have. This is why I plead with my students. Please, some of you, become judges. But become the right kind of judges. Become the ones that uphold the oath that you take, that you will enforce the laws, that you will protect us, which is what the law promises. And for those who don't, I want them to be afraid of us. And they tell me, you know, the same thing in Texas when I lived in Boston, the judges don't like you. Well, too bad. My job is not to be the most popular person in the community. Particularly as women, we gotta get over this being pleasers, wanting everybody just like us. Like the worst thing is for judges to not like me. Well, funny thing, they keep asking me to come and train them, and they keep putting me on statewide committees. Why? Because they know I'm gonna speak up. They may not like what I'm saying, but they know they need to have credibility of having people that speak up. And there are an awful lot of people on those committees too, but don't make any waves. Yes, I grew up, all women in my family, good women, don't make waves, right? Good Catholic women, go to Mass every morning. My grandmother came over from Italy, never wore pants, never worked outside the home, never drove a car. But the one thing my grandmother would keep telling me was she kept pushing me to go to school. And she would say, don't be like me. Well, cook like me, but the other part, learn how to speak up, you know, because she always wanted to do all these things, and my grandfather wouldn't let her, and she didn't know how to speak up and how to affirm that. So the second recommendation that I have is the notion of perseverance. And many of you, just by virtue of being here, you have persevered. You have gotten through an awful lot. But I want to plead with you to continue to persevere. This theme of don't let anybody stop you. Just don't. One time I did have to take a year off from undergraduate because I was always going at night and working in the day. And I was in Denver, I had fled Boston, I was just trying to get as far away from my ex and just someplace where I thought he's not going to think to find me, and it did take him a whole year to find me. But part of what was so heartbreaking to me that year is I didn't get there in time to sign up for classes. And I promised to myself that I'm always going to at least be taking one class. I wanted to be a lawyer, I knew that, and I thought as long as I'm taking one class, I'm going toward that goal. And I had to realize, okay, sometimes we get a little bit deterred. Just make sure you get back on track. If sometime you don't have the money for tuition or something, try to make sure that doesn't happen, but if it does, you just get back on track. Just don't let anything like that deter you. And it turned out to be fine. So it took me an extra year to get my undergraduate degree, but eventually I did. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer since I was about 12. Perry Mason was my big hero. We were too poor to have a television, but when I started babysitting at 12 and I discovered television, oh my gosh, those poor kids that I babysat, who knows what they did. I let them eat anything they wanted. As long as the television was on, I would watch them. I love Lucy reruns, anything. And then one night they're all in bed asleep and Perry Mason came on. The old black and white with that music. And Perry knew how to make the right thing happen. I thought, wow, I gotta learn about law. This is something else. So I told my grandmother, I want to be Perry Mason, I want to be a lawyer. And she said to me, now this was about 1963, she said, women can't be lawyers. You can be the secretary, Della Street, but you can't be a lawyer. Now remember, there were no women lawyers on television. She didn't know any women lawyers, so she thought she was just giving me a reality check, just saving me the heartbreak of trying to be something I couldn't be. So I thought, okay, well, I guess I could be Della Street. At least she gets in on a lot of the action. Perry seems to be pretty nice to her, you know, so I'll do that. So when I finally was able to flee my ex-husband and I kept trying to get a job as a legal secretary, but nobody would hire me because my typing was so bad. That was because in the 7th grade they told me I wasn't smart enough to be in the college track, so they put me in the secretarial track. And I was so angry, I said, I'm not even going to learn how to type, which of course later on came back to haunt me. I had to learn how. But I will tell you, when I went on, and after leaving my violent ex-husband, and I fled New York City where we were living and went to rural New Hampshire where I thought, well, he certainly won't find me here in this little small town, and of course he did. It's amazing the tenacity of many abusers, the amount of energy and money they will use to track you down, that power and control that you've heard people talk about all day. Just wouldn't apply it to keeping a job, but would apply it to tracking me down and finding me. And several times I was forced to go back and then finally able to leave and stay away. So I went 7 years of night school while I was working full-time in the day, crisscrossing the country in between. And finally I'm ready to apply to law school. And my boss said, well, where would you like to go? And I said, well, I guess I'd like to go to Harvard because I hear they have a lot of money. And he said, oh, no, I don't think you understand. You're not from the right family. You know, you're the first one to graduate and go on. They like people who have been here before. And then you want to do this domestic violence stuff. That's not going to be very appealing to them. And then you were a juvenile delinquent. Well, if that comes out, they're not going to like that very much. And you're a single mother. And, you know, so he had all this long list. And you better apply to some safety schools. And I thought, well, there's one thing I know how to do. I know how to pray. I know how to focus on what it is I want, and then you turn it over. And you say, okay, if this is meant to be, let it happen. But I promise if you let me get in, I will then devote my whole life to social justice and helping other people, making the right thing happen. And I would drive by Harvard Law School and roll down the window of my beat-up Ford Escort and yell at them as loud as I could, you're going to let me in. And then I got a little braver and I'd walk around inside. They have all these different color lockers, and I decided I wanted an orange locker. My oldest son, JC, loved the Syracuse Orangemen. So I said, okay, the most amazing thing happened. They not only let me in, they gave me a full scholarship, but when they assigned me an orange locker, I said, oh, you better be careful what you wish for, what you pray for. You might just get it. And I was terrified. I thought, oh my God, I'm the dumbest person in this whole school. I better lay low or they're going to figure it out. And they'll say, oh, we didn't mean to let you in. This is the wrong Sarah Buel. But I put an ad in the student newspaper because victims kept calling on the shelters. Could you just help us? One more victim. So I put an ad in the student paper. Anyone who wanted to learn how to be a court advocate, come to this room. We had 87 students come to the first meeting. By the end of the year, we had 215 students, 30% of them men. It's still the largest student organization at Harvard Law School. And we adopted different courts. We had legislative subcommittees, shelter liaison, just did all kinds of advocacy work. And out of that, those students who went to 15 of Boston's largest law firms all set up domestic violence pro bono projects. Every single hospital in the greater Boston area still has a domestic violence council. I still go back, have for 20 years. As an adjunct professor, I teach at Harvard Medical School to teach the doctors and the dentists and the public health practitioners, what do they need to know about family violence? And so I have to tell you, when I graduated from Harvard Law School with high honors, I did send my junior high school guidance counselor a copy of my transcript. Don't you dare tell children that they're not smart enough to be in the college track. How do you possibly know? Well, you looked at my older sisters who had dropped out, you looked at my father, an alcoholic, you looked at my older brothers in prison, and you tell me? So please don't judge anybody. You just don't know. We do all this work in juvenile court. We do work with, we have a child sex trafficking project with trafficked girls and boys here in Phoenix. And so many of them have been told they're not smart enough. They're not able to do this and that. The only thing you have to give is your body. The only thing, we got to change that message about what we can do. It shouldn't have taken me till I was 34 to get that script out of my mind that I wasn't smart enough. That, oh well, I could be a beautician. A great career, absolutely. I have a cousin who's a beautician. But it's not my dream. It's not my passion. So I don't want to go to beautician school. Oh, God, I shudder to think if I ever, when I tried to do this. Okay, so my third recommendation, oh my goodness, I'll rush through the rest, is just courage. Just have the courage to persevere. We all get scared. The difference is you do it anyway. Every single time, still, I graduated from law school, 1990, I'm still scared every time I get up to teach my class, every time I face a group like this, every time I have a trial. But that's good. It keeps that passion there. It keeps the interest. It keeps something there. You see people who are bored, and they're very boring, right? There's no excitement. And one of my pleas to you is never, ever, ever read a talk. Just don't. We don't let anybody. In the law school, we don't let you read a talk. You can have an outline, but you got to talk to us. You got to make eye contact. And I know undergraduate and graduate, you all read your stuff. I tell you, I go to sleep when people read. I'm planning dinner. I'm thinking about, do I want chocolate ice cream when I go until I'm harder? You know, it's very hard to focus, no matter how fabulous your writing is. So my plea is not to read. And I will tell you, as part of this, one of the things I'm probably most proud of is getting fired from the district attorney's office in Boston for working with battered women in prison. And we were working on that documentary, Defending Our Lives, for which we did win 1994 Academy Award for Best Short Documentary. And my boss called me in and he said, if you're going to keep working with women in prison, I'm going to have to fire you. You can't be a prosecutor and work with women in prison. Your job is to put people in there, not to get them out. Oh, no, sir, with all due respect, my job is to see justice is served. It is not to just lock up whoever happens to get arrested. And in that nanosecond, I am so grateful that I had the courage to say the person who writes my paycheck will not dictate my ethics. I And he said, well, then you're out of here. And I remember going home and telling kids, oh my God, I may have to waitress again. And my son JC's like, Mom, you have a law degree. I don't think you're going to have to waitress again. And within 1 month, the prosecutor in the next county hired me. He said, whatever they were paying you, I'll give you $10,000 more. So when you do the right thing, it falls into place, right? Don't sell yourself. Don't sell yourself. We know what that's called. And it's the same thing whether you're a lawyer, or a doctor, or you're on a street corner, or on the back pages of Craigslist, or where they're putting people in. Okay, the fourth is you have to just clear away the obstacles. We talked about this. Who deserves a front row seat in your life? You get to choose. Don't let your parents, I don't care if they're paying your tuition, we'll figure out another way. I don't care your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your teacher, anybody. Just don't let anybody treat you disrespectfully. You deserve to be treated with the greatest respect and dignity. That's what human rights is all about. And finally, to do this work with whatever your faith is that guides you. People say to me, how can you have been doing this work for 35 years now with domestic violence, child abuse, sexual assault, human trafficking? For me, it's my faith. It's understanding there is a higher power. And I can work as hard as I possibly can, and then you have to turn it over. And you have to say, okay, guide me, give me the resources and the strength that I need, so that you don't feel as though this is all on you to figure out. Because those are the people that I see burn out. So I hope there is some core of faith. And one way to keep that alive is every morning and every night you identify what are 3 things you're really grateful for. And once you get in that mode of gratitude, and I started doing that with my own kids and foster kids, because they'd be complaining, oh, we don't need video games, oh, we don't have bicycles, oh, we don't have all this stuff. Right, okay, what are you grateful for? You have enough to eat. You have a bed to sleep in. You have me who loves you so unconditionally. And then I realized, oh, this is good for you too, not just for everybody else, right? To force yourself to do it and find things that are nurturing for you. So I want to thank you for coming. If any of you ever want to visit any of my classes, we only have 3 more criminal law classes, Monday and Wednesday, 8:30 to 10, room 116 of the law school. Feel free to just show up, but you can't be late. And if you want to sit in, you're more than welcome. And then in the fall, I'll be teaching criminal procedure, which is constitutional law and criminal law. And then in the spring, domestic violence and the law. But I want to thank you and leave you with the quote of one of my favorite musicians, Patti LaBelle, who says, when you have been blessed, pass it on. Thank you very much. So these are available for free online. You can go to instituteforsafefamilies.org. And what I love is this Men Can campaign was started by African American and Latino men in Philadelphia. They wanted to do something that would have men taking responsibility to give the message that most men are not violent. But they are bystanders, and what is it we're going to do? And so they have a whole campaign, absolutely free, camera ready. You can download them. In Houston and Austin, we did bake sales so that we could put shelter names at the bottom. And then I love this. I know LD's no longer in San Diego, but he did that when he was in San Diego. And we want to pull in our heroes who are willing to speak up. And so we have a commission against domestic violence from the American Bar Association, and we want all the professional groups to start having committees and commissions, psychological associations, social work, and some of them do, but we would love to see that expanded too. So thank you very much. And I will give you, even the people who sat in the back, because we didn't know ahead of time, if anybody's interested in court watch or safety planning, and we're happy to come and do training on court watch for any of your groups too, so these will be up here.
Does anybody have questions for Professor Buel before we wrap up? Yeah. Is that a stretch?
You do, or you're stretching?
Oh no, I don't.
It's like an auction now, you know. So, I know you've had a long day.
Yes, thank you all for who have been here from the beginning or just dropped in by, that doesn't make any sense. I've been here the whole day. Really quick before I say, or we wrap up the entire thing, there is a fundraiser for the Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence with Professor Buel works with them, and I actually interned there as well. So they're having a fundraiser tomorrow and, oh no, sorry, it's today and tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. in Zoyo. I think it's in Phoenix. So if you happen to be in Phoenix, if you're going to the Take Back the Night, maybe you can stop by and get Froyo or anything else. So I'll have that flyer in the back for people. And
So like we said, thank you so much for coming. If you want more information about how to join our club, we have a sign-up sheet outside on our registration desk, and we can also, if you RSVP'd, send you more information about the speakers with all of their contact information and their website, so you can keep learning more about what they do and hopefully, keep in contact with them, and maybe they can inspire you to, go down their path, or, if you want to go to law school, you can always talk to Professor Buel. We have a great law school here at ASU if you're interested. Please visit the tables in the back before you leave. We have jewelry, we have Nikta with Oxfam, and I think we still have Reel in the back. And I want to thank you again, Professor Buel and Habiba Noshin, our keynote, for making this an amazing summit. And I want to thank all of our volunteers and our members. You guys did a great job, so thank you. We want to thank our sponsors, Arizona Foundation for Women and Marcia Sandground. Paradise Bakery for the cookies, and we want to thank anyone who came and volunteered, who donated. You guys made this an awesome summit. It's been a long 4 months putting this together, but we hope you guys had a good Friday. I know you could have been doing other things, but we're glad you came and spent it with us. So.
And we'd love any feedback, because we might have this next semester or next year again, and we want to know, like, what did you like? What were the topics that you liked or didn't like? The format, anything. If you want to be critical, that's fine too, but we love positive comments, of course. So, does anybody have any general thoughts right now?
Anyone having final
about
thoughts?
Womanity, or are you inspired? Are you like inspired by anything today that you may do?
Yeah.
May do something.
Cool. All right. So we also have food in the back. If you guys want to grab some Subway and cookies, please take it, because I don't know what we're gonna do with it.
You guys have
so you guys can always take some more, and we'll still be here, kind of. Wrapping up, so if you guys want to come up and talk to us, Habiba is still here. If you guys want to talk to her, get a photo, get her autograph, she'll be here Thursday. I know, it's like, no, we will come get you. Otherwise, thank you guys for coming.